Okay, today we're going to use our first flipped classroom video, Unit 1, Learning Target 1, Peopling of the World. As you can see, these are our essential questions. How does the Neolithic Revolution affect the development of civilization, and what are the characteristics of a civilization? People can learn about the past by using written records. However, before written records, there was no way of documenting things. To learn more about the distant time before the written records, scientists needed to use special skills and tools. They were like detectives trying to figure out the puzzle or mystery of prehistoric human past. These people are known as archaeologists. In the early 1970s, archaeologists made some important finds in Africa. They found footprints of human-like beings called humanoids that lived about 3.5 million years ago. Because of these early humans walked upright, they could travel long distances. They could use their free arms to carry food, tools, and children. And these creatures also developed one other human trait. They could use what we call thumbs. Because of the operable thumb, they could pick up and hold objects. This changed their lifestyles. Scientists have only a vague picture of the human origin. You can look back at the Ice Age and so forth, but they're still learning more and more, and as they develop and discover new ideas, and they can find out more things about early humans. What is clear is that humans had skills that helped them adapt and survive in different lands as well as different climates. Section 2 talks about humans try to control nature. Let's go back a second. First, humans had faced a struggle for survival. There was two major concerns for thousands of years: finding food and shelter, and protecting themselves. They used fire, clothes, shelter, as well, and even language to help in these areas. Humans' culture changed as time changed, and new tools replaced old ones and new tested ideas. Later, modern humans increased the pace of the change as time progressed. The people who had lived in the early part of the Old Stone Age were known as Nomads. These were people that traveled from place to place in search of food. They hunted animals and collected plants, thus they were referred to as hunters and gatherers. They found food by hunting and gathering berries, nuts, and roots. They later came up with tools to help them in their hunting tactics. As many as 100 specialized tools were created and found. Cro-Magnon people created works of art as well, including paintings. Thousands of years ago, Stone Age artists mixed charcoal, mud, and animal blood to paint with. They used this to draw pictures of animals on the cave walls and on rocks. For centuries, humans lived in hunting and gathering communities. Small groups of 25 to 70 people, often in certain areas the same season of each year, because they knew that it would be rich with food during that time. As the years passed, they realized they could leave plant seeds in the area at one year and come back another and find plants there. This began a new part of human life, farming. Scientists think that the climate became warmer all around the world as well. Humans' new knowledge of planting seeds, combined with the warmer climate, created what we call the Neolithic Revolution, the agricultural revolution that occurred during the Neolithic period. Early farming methods were created, such as slash and burn farming. This meant cutting down trees and burning them to clear the field and use the ashes as fertilizer. After a year or so, they would move on to another area. Along with growing food, they also began to raise animals. Domestication, or taming wild animals to ensure a constant food source, was a big part of this. Horses, dogs, pigs, goats, all became domesticated animals. We know a lot of what we know is because of the area in northeastern Iraq called Jarmo. In this area, people lived about 9,000 years ago, raising animals, growing things, and farming. People also began to farm in many spots all over the world. One village in modern-day Turkey called Catalhayuk. The village grew on good land near a river. Some workers grew wheat, barley, and peas. Others raised sheep and cattle. Because they produced enough food for all the people, others began developing other kinds of skills. Some made pots out of clay that they baked in. Others would work as weavers. Some would be artists. Archaeologists have found wall paintings that show animals and hunting scenes as well. They found evidence that the people had a religion too. Early farming villages had problems such as failed crops, lack of rain caused by drought, which caused people to starve. They had floods, fires that caused damage and death. But still, some of these early villages grew into great cities. Over time, farmers developed new tools such as hoes, sickles, and plows. This was part of the new technology. We're going to look at a case study on in Sumer. Farming led to large communities. People invented wheels, carts, the sail for boats. These inventions made it easier to travel between distant lands. As life became more complex, villages began to grow. People divided into social classes. Some people had more wealth and power than others, and people began to worship gods and goddesses they felt that would protect their crops and make their harvest very large. You probably want to take note of this chart and use it in this next portion of our presentation. So, one of the first civilizations that arose in Sumer, it was in Mesopotamia between the Tigris and Euphrates River. We'll talk about that in our next learning target. A civilization is a complex culture. It has 5 features: advanced cities, specialized workers, complex institution, record keeping, and advanced technology. These fill in the 5 spots on your chart. The first a civilization had was advanced cities that contained many people and served as centers for trade. Next, civilizations had specialized workers. Specialization is the development of a skill needed for one specific kind of work. Skilled workers who would make good with their hands were known as artisans. Third, civilizations had complex institutions such as government, religion, economy, etc. The government would establish laws and make sure order was maintained. Temples were the center of religion as well as government and trade. These all are known as institutions. Fourth trait is record keeping, which is needed to keep track of laws, debts, and payments. They also created the need for writing. Thus, scribes, who were people used for writing to keep records, and cuneiform were invented. Cuneiform was a wedge-shaped form of writing that was invented in Sumer. People began to write down city events. Last, civilizations needed technology that can provide new tools and methods to solve problems. In Sumer had all of these features. One of the new technologies they had was a metal called bronze, which led us to the Bronze Age around 3000 BC. The Bronze Age refers to the time period when people began using bronze to make tools and weapons. One of the first civilizations arose in Sumer. It was in Mesopotamia. We talked a little bit about all that. Another one was called The city was surrounded by walls. It was built of mud dried into bricks. Held about 30,000 people. Social classes included rulers and priests, traders, craft workers, and artists. Farmers lived outside of the city walls and raised the food for all of them to use. Some workers dug ditches to carry water to the fields. Others were government officials of the city government that planned all of the activities. Families lived in small houses and tightly packed near one another. Inside the city, metalworkers made bronze points and spears. Potters made clay pots. Traders met people from other areas. They traded the spear points and pots for goods. that Ur could not produce. This was known as a bartering system, trading of goods and services without the use of money. Sometimes the deals were written down by the scribes. Lastly, Ur had one of the most important buildings called the ziggurat, a temple. It's the tallest, most important building in the city. The priests would carry out religious rituals there. They would also do different governmental trades and discussions there as well. This lays the groundwork for our next learning target that's going to deal with river valley civilizations. Make sure you rewind and go back and write down any areas that you may have missed, any notes that you may have missed, and ask questions in your Cornell notes to help you dictate to yourself where you can find your answers. Hope you enjoyed this first presentation.